finally bringing UFC to Portland. How did that happen? How did that come together?
Well, I think the process started quite a few years ago. Chael Sonnen and Matt Lellen and myself, especially Chael, kind of spearheading getting the extreme fighting laws off the books here in Oregon, and kind of challenging the system a little bit to get Full Contact Fighting Federation, an amateur fight show, up and started, and be able to put on shows. And then that rolled into Matt and I doing Sportfight, which was kind of pro-am, smaller show, which kind of paved the way for now, a hotbed for mixed martial arts, and ultimately the biggest promotion in the country coming here, the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
What's it going to be like fighting in your home, fighting in Oregon, your home state? Is that going to change that fight for you?
Oh, I don't think so. I'm excited about being here in front of the home crowd, and grew up in Seattle, lived here in Oregon for a long time, and it's still just another fight. Nogueira's, no matter where it happened, he poses interesting problems, so focus on that, and having the crowd roar will just make it all the better.
What for Nogueira? What are some of the things is really on your radar screen when you're training? You're really acutely aware about things that are problems for you, or things that you got to really look at.
I don't know if there's any problems, but I think there are things you have to be aware of. Obviously, he's very strong on the ground. He's a submission guy, and that's where he likes to try and put fights. So I got to be attentive there and be ready to deal with him in those positions if we end up there.
Did you obviously saw the Lesnar Mir fight? Did that make you feel better about your fight with him, to see how he tore through Mir?
It really had nothing to do with my fight. I mean, I kind of predicted that that's how the fight would go. I thought that Mir would have more trouble with him this time. He continues to get better each and every time he steps out there. He's a big, strong, athletic guy with a great wrestler's base, and if he gets you down, especially with the jiu-jitsu mindset, you're going to have trouble getting out from underneath him, and he's going to do damage. So, it kind of went how I thought it would go from a technical perspective.
So what was it like being in the ring with Lesnar, and coming back and having such a hefty component where you got somebody with a power punch that can put your lights out if it hits the wrong point, and obviously
that's nothing new. I mean, every single guy you step in there with has that capability. Tim Sylvia had the capability. Gonzaga certainly had that ability, and so Brock wasn't anything different in that regard. Obviously, he's a little bit different, and then he has that wrestling base, which is something I don't see a lot. And so kind of preparing to deal with that with his size was the biggest issue. I felt like I did that. I ended up getting caught, with a shot. It's the fight game. That happens.
So how do you approach? Do you find that your approach to fights has changed over the years, or now you've fought for so many years? Do you come at a fight completely differently than you did earlier in your career, and how so?
No, I don't think I come at fights completely differently than I did when I first started. Obviously, I a little more calculated and watch more tape, plan more, and I do a lot more of that myself than I did early on. I think when I first started, I was working with Rico Chiapparelli, and he kind of came up with a lot of the game plans, but I think that was the foundation for what has become my fighting style. And the conditioning part is evolved and been tweaked now to know how to get myself in shape, and I know how to peak for fights, and then it's a matter of adjusting, which tools you sharpen for which guys.
What weight are you fighting Nogueira at?
I'll be the same as I always am, right around 223, 224 probably.
Is that the weight you like fighting at? Do you like lighter, heavier?
That's my natural weight. I don't need to get any bigger. I don't need, it's not going to help me deal with any of these guys. I know Nogueira's no bigger than I am, really. He's maybe 10 pounds heavier.
So how do you wear the crown of the guy who brought MMA into the mainstream? I mean, is that do you feel can you kind of look at your career and say, yeah, I can kind of see where that's happening, or do you think that's a responsibility that you then carry with you?
I don't think it's anything I have to carry or anything I have to worry about. People try to attribute that to me, but there was a lot of people that contributed to getting the sport where it is. I've just been one of the many.
Where do you think the sport's going? Where do you see for the future of the sport?
I think we'll continue to entrench ourselves as the combative sport for this generation. It's what everybody's into. They understand it. The tactics, the technique, the styles, the whole thing. I think it's just going to continue to grow.
One of the key issues with the UFC, and you've stated it before, is its inability to get Fedor to fight. And there's been a lot of talk about Fedor Emir, getting that closing that loop. Do you think that that's something that will ever happen, or do you think it's essential for the sport?
I don't think it's essential. I don't think it's that big a deal. Who needs who? It's hard to say. Fedor's people think that the UFC needs him, and the UFC is like, well, if you want to be, considered the best, then you need to fight in the UFC. And it's all about perspective, and those things have a way of working themselves out. He may be a free agent here fairly shortly, and he may be back in at the table, negotiating a deal with the UFC. Anything's possible.
If he does, is that a fight that you would want to have on in your career here?
Obviously, I think it's been a fight that I strive for a long time, and I've been pretty vocal about wanting to compete against him. But we'll see. I'm not going to hold my breath.
What do you see as your career path now? I mean, you're what? This is second fight with a 4-fight contract or third fight?
This is my second fight, a third 3-fight deal.
Okay.
So this fight, one more, and we'll see. Taking it one fight at a time, and got a lot of other things going on, but I'm enjoying fighting and competing and feeling like I'm getting better as an athlete.
Who are some of the new generation of fighters that you're looking at that you would love to corner or have train in your gym or be a part of?
Well, I corner a lot of great guys. Gray Maynard, Tyson Griffin, Forrest is training with us, Amir, Junie Brown. There's a whole plethora of guys that train at Extreme Couture. They're all up-and-coming guys at different stages of their development as athletes and fighters. So it's fun. It's a fun place to be.
Who's cornering for you for the Nogueira fight?
I've got Sean Tompkins as my head corner, Gil Martinez, Quinton Chong, and Neil Malance as my 4 guys.
Mm-hmm. So what do you make of Machida and his kind of rise here? It's kind of an interesting element in the UFC.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. He's got a very unique style. It's very unorthodox. He stays pretty true to his karate background and makes it work for him. He's got great footwork, great balance. He's very patient. I think he's terrific.
Is that something that you ever see you facing him in the ring? Is that a matchup that could ever happen?
Well, I could certainly go back down to 205 if that was something that they wanted to see. I'd be interested in competing against him. I think he's a tremendous competitor and somebody I'd like to fight.
So do you see Hollywood entering back into your career you did Scorpion King 2 and did some stuff with Red Belt. Do you have any of those projects that are kind of coming up for you?
Just finished The Expendables with Stallone. Spent the last 3 months working on that movie, and it's going to be a big movie. It'll come out next year. Got several other movie projects that I'm attached to, and making more movies is definitely something on the horizon for me.
So, do you still have ties into Sportfight? Is that still part of your universe, or is that massive now?
When I signed on to be a commentator and part of the UFC's promotion a couple years back, I had to leave Sportfight, and it doesn't make sense to come back now. Matt's running it, and it's doing well. So.
Do you think that this fight in Portland is going to be the beginning of a string of fights in here? I think we'll see other things come to Portland at the professional level, the WC or anything like that.
I definitely think that this fight's going to do well here, and that they'll be back here for sure.